Welcome to Corporate Elements. We are joined today by an IT auditor and an AML officer who worked for the major banks. They are here thanks to our friendship. We were working together in the past. Today, we're going to share the qualifications and certifications and explore it further, which help them elevate their career. Thank you for joining me. We refer them as John and Johnny because we want to keep their real names and their employer names private. So, over to you, Johnny. Maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself and your career into the AML compliance.
Honestly, I started as a customer support executive initially when I started off after my college. And then initially it was a bit of a struggle as to where I need to end up after like 3.5 years in that particular field. I was like, oh, I think I can apply myself much better. So I had a bit of inclination in finance, but not core finance. I was more of like investment analyst sort of a guy. So for me, investments were very exciting. So from investments, I got into something called as certificate of investment banking, and I did my post graduation in finance. So that kind of gave me a head start in something called as financial research. So 1 year of financial research where we check everything in terms of investment profile of the company, what exactly they do, what are their financials, what are the different parameters of, and risks and industry scope, etc. So a lot of this gave me a lot of insights into financial research. And post financial research, then I switched to something called as KYC AML research. So KYC AML research is not it's the same thing that it sounds. It's basically know your customer. But know your customer, it's not like a very simple term. It's quite deep diving into the research of what exactly is the company all about and who owns the firm. That's the main deal about it. So the basis of how it started is again 9/11 attacks. So US FATF started all this. So the Financial Action Task Force, they started with this particular initiative where they gave a lot of importance to something called as anti-money laundering policies. And initially there were like only like 10 to 12 countries, or then a lot of countries joined in this particular program. And I think right now we are at like 40 plus countries that have joined this particular initiative. And there are a lot of regulations that have been imposed by each of these countries, which also includes India as well. Regulation has helped to build the AML KYC research front like this particular industry has grown in the last 10 years. So I started as a research analyst, grew up to 4I, that is your quality checker. Basically, we are now handling governance. Okay, so compliance and governance for banks. So we save them a lot of money by ensuring that whatever accounts they are taking in, like be it a corporate account, be it a individual account, they need to know what exactly that whole entity is all about and how much risk they carry and what kind of measures they need to take exactly to shield themselves from risks. So it can be like there are mainly three types of risks that we are sort of helping them out. There is credit risk. Basically, there shouldn't be any credit defaults as such. So we check the financials of the firm. We analyze the financials of the entity. Then we see what kind of business that they do. So business is basically, if it is a very risky business, it obviously creates an issue with something called as a reputational risk. So say if you're a firm which is into oil-based products, like crude oil-based products, and if you do something like harming to the environment, so you kind of are dealing with a reputational risk. If I deal as a bank, if I deal with this particular entity who has done a lot of wrong things in terms of environmental damage, in terms of labor, in terms of financials, etc., So that kind of creates a reputational risk. So we protect the bank from reputational risks. And third is again environmental risk as well. So environmental risk is basically whatever these companies are dealing with, they shouldn't have any kind of environmental risk. Very basic thing is something called as a carbon footprint. If there is a lot of carbon footprint, it sort of messes with the green initiatives of the country. So it technically affects everyone in that whole arena of products, process, and services. So that is the reason banks are now shifting to a green initiative sort of environment where they are only supporting or probably they are boosting green initiatives so that they can boost their reputational risk as well as minimize their environmental risks in this particular thing. So this is like the basic. What in terms of certifications, I think there are like two major certifications. I personally did not do any specific certifications for it, but there are good certifications. Like there is ACAMS. It's a international accredited organization. So they have this ACAMS certification where where it says that certified anti-money laundering specialist. Then in India, there is an organization called as IIBF, Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, which has this specific course called as CFE. That's a Certified Fraud Examiner. For India, the IIBF CFE is a very good option, and it's quite comprehensive in terms of certification. And ACAMS is internationally recognized. So if you are in countries like UK, US, or probably UAE or any of the Emiratis, then yes, this particular certification is a must in that particular field.
So you're saying that the demand professionals with the certification globally is high. So how do this benefit to someone at the career at the international level?
So what happens is, of course, the education system is broken. We all know that. We go through something called as herd mentality. So everyone reads, learns the same things. But nobody is teaching us about what exactly goes in these organizations. So a lot of these kids who come out of college, they're clueless. What exactly these certifications do, as a matter of fact, is that they give you an insight as to what are the possibilities that where you can go through. Like for example, AML is a very vast thing. Like KYC is just part of anti-money laundering policy. So it flows down from governments and then to central banks and then to your banks. So central banks impose these regulations, and then obviously it goes to the banks. Banks have to work through all these policies and make their own AML policies and accordingly implement it in the systems. Okay, so it's a big chain of events that they have to follow. So how these certifications help is that they'll help you to understand everything from the start to the end, how it should start and how it should end, and what is the end goal of these. So certifications are, yes, important for someone who does not know but has an inclination to go into these fields but does not know how to start. So so these certifications are good and recommended now, because a lot of these organizations or these professionals, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn. So they have been posting a lot about these jobs and what are the requirements and what you need to study and everything. So it's become much easier. But still, these certain countries, they require these certifications minimum. Like for example, I'm not sure if you've heard about investment research. So in investment research, there's something called a CFA. So it's a certified financial analyst. It's a US based program that gives you much more insight into investment research, the risk management, ethics related to investment. So it's a minimum requirement. You need to have it. Otherwise, it's very hard to get into these organizations where they do this investment research. Even if you have knowledge of investments, it will not help. Sometimes these certifications are important. So similarly for AML KYC, like UAE, they're very strict. You need to have an ACAMS and you need to have local experience of dealing with these local entities. Similarly in India as well, if you are into fraud examination then or fraud auditing and etc., then IIBF CFE is a must if you want to get into it firsthand.
I can totally echo what you said, Johnny, as I understand, because where I was associated with the previous employer of mine, I used to work for an internal audit team. So the association of internal audit, there is a regulatory requirement as such where they need people with certain certifications to carry out the internal audit work. Okay, and by that I mean if I'm working for a fintech where there is a part of finance and technology is also involved. So there were team members with the certification, such as John with CISA, and there were people with the certification of ACAMS and also certified fraud examiners. So that's really interesting, like how the certification can get you into the fields of banking. So what I was thinking that what do you think kind of experience and skills are like valued by the employers?
From a fresher point of view, like now that we are both doing that kind of interviews and stuff, so for a fresher, I feel that of course you can do certifications, you can put money into it, but for me there are certain technical skills that you should have because companies won't teach you all this. Like for example, the basic thing is interpretation and analysis of a certain documentation. Like if I read something, am I able to interpret and make sense of it? That's a very basic thing, and you would be really surprised, like the freshers that come out, they do not know these basic things. So coming back to the main issue is that freshers, first of all, analytical mind is very necessary. Because whatever you read, you're able to analyze it, you're able to express it. So that is one thing. Then communication, like it's very important, be it talking communication, be it written communication. So those sort of skills are lacking right now. And then finally comes the working thing, that of course everyone is working on a system. These kids, unfortunately, they are not aware about how these things are working. So if you have these, I'm not saying that you should be an expert, but at least an intermediate level of knowing these few skills will actually able to assist you. And of course, when you're a fresher, you wouldn't know obviously where you're heading to, but a little bit of reading about what exactly you want to get into will sort of help, so you don't end up in a dead end job. So we'll talk about it.
Yeah, adding to it, so we talked about the cons that industry related skills are not being taught in college, but along with that, we have platforms which are available now. Internet is a blessing for these guys. They can go through things. For example, a person is interested into information security. He needs to research about it, what skills he requires to excel in that particular career, and then get into interviews and then get into the industry. You should have something in your hand before starting in your head.
And one more challenge is that companies are not investing too much in training and development. Like they expect that, oh, this particular person should know this, and then we'll just train him on the process and the parts where they will fit, and then it is done. So a lot of times the person who gets into it doesn't make sense of it, and hence a lot of times you will see that, oh, these people leave very fast. So a lot of onus is also on the organizations, but obviously everyone is working for profit, so they will want to minimize cost, is how organizations will look at.
I totally, in fact, agree with your thoughts. When I graduated, I stepped into a company with no real understanding of what I was getting into. Okay. I didn't have a mentor or anyone to guide me in shaping my career path. That is one of the big reasons I've started this podcast. Okay. The idea is to fill the gap and become a resource for those navigating into the corporate world. So the plan is that the episode we will deep dive into industry insights. We will talk about the essential certifications, we'll talk about the right skills and the career opportunities. My only hope is that the listeners can gain value and knowledge and maybe even pass it to their children, friends, or anyone who is trying to figure out their career journey. It's all about building awareness and helping others to make these informed decisions about their future. And I'm glad we are here. We are discussing this. And thank you for contributing.
I think, like even in terms of AML, the main reason why it has become so much important, even if it is an IT audit or internal audits and everything, is because earlier a lot of companies were fined and nothing used to happen. Like they paid the fine and that's it. But now banking is getting more serious about such irregularities. So they post it online, they put it in the news, they make a big issue out of it so that these companies don't take it lightly. So if you understand, like there are like so many big banks, and they are rotten to the core. Like there was one bank which funded or which assisted Nazi accounts, which is like 100 years ago, and those accounts are still active. And you would be like really surprised. Oh, 100 years old accounts, Nazi
Yeah,
accounts.
I'm still. Yeah, yeah. It's surprising.
It's very surprising, right? Now what happens is, oh, they were operating since 100 years. Nobody looked at it. Then suddenly those accounts were closed. Why? Because it went into the news. So now it's very necessary that these banks, especially Indian or any banks, so they are being sort of punished for that publicly. So now it's more of a not only a shame game, but it also a fame game as well. Like if they don't do this, they will not have a good market standing.
Yeah, a
A very
reputational
a
damage.
very good example, Ola. You saw it was a fiasco. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, I think it's the industry should understand that it's time to not take it easy for each and everything. So that chalta hai kind of attitude is not going to help you guys, especially into these critical things such as banking or electric vehicles. So Ola, what we have heard about Ola bikes, electric bikes is
It's serious and at the
serious.
same time funny, and at the same time quite eye-opening that a lot of companies,
Eye-setting.
that the way they market themselves, oh, we are the best, we are the best.
So all the focus of them is into just marketing and
Marketing.
creating the hype,
Correct.
getting best valuation for their companies, and then they don't care about the people, about
Correct.
the customers. But this is not the way to reach the top. If we see some good companies who are at the top and who stayed at the top for decades, for example, Apple, these guys are worried about their customers rather than their product. So they talk about their why, their belief, and then they talk about what and how they do it. So that is what I think is important.
yeah. I think on the ending note, I think you just quoted Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
who, who
I'm
has been
reading him
known for
right
his.
now.
Yeah, yeah. Even he's inspiring when I follow him. So this has been great. This has been a lot of in- insightful and informative, and it's just great to have you guys, here on the podcast. And I just thank you for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Pleasure was ours as well.
Pleasure was ours as well. And thank you for inviting us. I look forward to have more such podcasts with you. And it was a great time.
It was fun.
Thank you.